Welcome to the Tibet Center. Welcome to the Tibet Center. Here at 502 North Ridgewood Road in South Orange. So we'll begin by reciting the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West, and for all the people living there together with their new ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the north together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas called profound illumination, and at the same time Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhisattva. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that Samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, "Good, good, O son of noble family. Profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice." When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering of the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Now we generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Okay. We'll do one rosary of Om Mani Padme Hum, which is the mantra of compassion, compassion being the wish to remove the suffering of others. So as you recite, you can imagine that you are removing the suffering of others. It's not something that we can actually do, but you can imagine that you're doing it, and you can imagine at your heart the flame of self-cherishing being diminished by inhaling the suffering of others in the form of smoke or soot. And then as you breathe out, you can think that you are sharing with others all of your virtues. So as you breathe in, you are removing the suffering of others and diminishing your self-cherishing. As you breathe out, you are providing others with all they wish for and need. So you think like that as you're reciting Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani. Om Mani Padme Hum. So that thought of wishing to remove the suffering of others and wishing to provide others with their happiness, I think is the essential quality of true spiritual practice, not relating it to any particular religion, but just in general. A spiritual way of life would be one where you are devoting yourself to wishing to and developing the ability to remove the suffering of others, and wishing to and developing the ability to help others in whatever way we can. And what inhibits that ability is this self-grasping that we all have. And so as we breathe in the soot of negativity and try to diminish that sense of self, now I'm talking Buddhism. My apologies for that sense of self, which is seen to be what causes us to be proud, what causes us to be angry when things don't go the way we want them to, what causes us to cling and wish for things, what causes us to be jealous, and that all stems from this sense of self. So Buddhist practice is devoted to coming to initially understand that if we look among all the parts, we won't find a self. Establishing that truth that if you look among all the parts, since this me that I identify as being this self is dependent on parts, its depending on parts contradicts the possibility of its existing in any kind of independent way. Understanding that, realizing that, actually negates any possibility of there being some findable self at our core. So the whole of practice is devoted to diminishing this self-cherishing and coming to recognize that there's no self at the core to cherish anyway. That's what we study for all the years that we study in the monastery, and that's what we then focus our meditation on, going deeper and deeper, trying to develop a more and more subtle consciousness to experience that lack of self at a deeper and deeper level. That's, in a nutshell, what the Buddhist path is, with the recognition that once you have actually realized that lack of self, it is the qualities that accompany that realization at the deepest level are this infinite ability to benefit others. And that's what we were discussing last week with the person sitting there last week, not you, Mark, who asked about what might the qualities of a Buddha be. Now, a Buddha is a fully enlightened being who has diminished totally any self-cherishing, has realized the lack of self, and thereby developed this infinite ability to benefit others. Now, if the Buddha has this infinite ability to benefit others, what prohibits us from actually being benefited is our own sense of self. So it is through our efforts to, to accept, to be able to receive this effort by all these enlightened beings that we have to develop. So the blessings of all the enlightened ones are flowing out towards us, and we have to work towards the ability to accept and be benefited. And what is it that the Buddhas can do for us? They can teach us how we can work towards that state of enlightenment. So I thought I would share.
No, that's his. Okay, it's his.
So this, for many years, for all of us, was a Bible. Jeffrey Hopkins' thesis, which was then published as Meditation on Emptiness. And so to back up a tiny little bit, a practitioner wishing to attain Buddhahood You don't have one for all these people?
No, I don't. Wait a minute, let me manifest. Probably there's something online that you can now.
So,
Jeff Allen is listening to us. And,
yes, Jeffrey, can you... So, the initial step is to wish to work towards the attainment of enlightenment. So the initial, we consider that the sort of first level of a true spiritual practitioner would be to work not towards the preoccupations with this life, but towards the future, a future life. So you're not simply working for the your attainments in this life. You are working towards the attainment of a better future life. The second level is the determination to get out of this vicious circle of life altogether, to attain freedom from cyclic existence. The third level is the determination or the wish to attain the full enlightenment of a fully enlightened being, a Buddha, so that one can be of benefit to countless others. So in order to attain that third level, or what establishes you on the path working towards the third level, is that you make a commitment to work towards the attainment of that full enlightenment. That commitment to work towards the attainment of full enlightenment is called bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment. So the work that we are engaging in is really trying to cultivate that mind of enlightenment, trying to cultivate a sense of responsibility towards others, enough of a sense of responsibility that would provoke us to actually make this commitment to work towards enlightenment. And the others that we work towards can't be limited to friends, can't be limited to family. It has to be unlimited. Our concern for others has to be limitless as well. It is out of that limitless concern that we actually take the vow that propels us not on the path towards our own freedom from suffering, but on the path towards the attainment of full enlightenment. Once we are on that path, the first step of the path is making this commitment. And it's not, I mean, we can make this commitment to ourselves throughout the day, but it is only when we are constantly infused with this determination to attain enlightenment for all sentient beings that we have reached the first sort of step of the journey. And at that point, we really focus on what we should be practicing this beforehand, but focus on the realization that there is no self. And with this determination to attain enlightenment, we then focus on this lack of self And the first step of that realization of the lack of self is an inferential realization of no self. It's like by means of a logical phrase, of a syllogism, the meditator who thinks of himself recognizes that he is dependent on parts and realizes that since he is dependent on parts, he or she is dependent on parts, he or she is necessarily lacking any kind of intrinsic, inherent, independent existence. And once the meditator is able to actually have that realization that he or she is empty of inherent existence, once that syllogism has provoked an actual realization of selflessness, of emptiness of self, the meditator then focuses very deeply on that realization, infused with this determination to attain Buddhahood in order to help all sentient beings. And at some point, that realization of the emptiness of self becomes direct. They say it's like the mind and the object being focused on being like pouring water into water. At that point, the Bodhisattva practitioner has had a direct realization of emptiness, of his lack of any kind of self. At that point, the meditator has attained what is called the path of seeing. As he or she continues to focus on emptiness really profoundly, that initial realization of emptiness intensifies to the point where they reach what is called the first. No, the path of seeing is the first ground. So, on the first ground, a bodhisattva, after rising from meditative equipoise, that is to say, you're focused on that realization of emptiness. You come out of that focus and you can see 100 Buddhas. You receive the blessing of 100 Buddhas. You see, meaning you directly perceive before you 100 Buddhas. You go to 100 Buddha lands. Now, a Buddha land is a pure land that is the manifestation of the enlightenment of that particular Buddha. You illuminate 100 lands. You, the practitioner who's just arisen from this realization, vibrate 100 worldly realms. You live for 100 eons. Now, what's an eon?
Time I wait for the train, that's the That's an easy one.
So there are two kinds of eons. There are calculable eons and incalculable eons. And I described a calculable eon, they say, is you make a pit. I don't know if it's 100 or 500 meters this way, 500 meters this way, and they had meters back then, 500 meters deep. So it's 500 meters, duck, 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 and you fill it with if you shave my head, you fill it with hairs, and then every 500 years you remove one hair. When it's empty, that's a calculable eon. Okay, so live for 100 eons. It's not clear if these are calculable or uncalculable. See with true wisdom past and future for 100 eons. Enter into and rise from 100 meditative stabilizations. Those open 100 different doors of doctrine. That is, teach 100 times. Ripen 100 sentient beings. Bring to enlightenment 100 sentient beings. Emanate 100. So emanate 100 of his own bodies. Now, emanating, that is to say, out of this realization, you are able to emanate 100 beings. Now, I'll read you something that His Holiness the Dalai Lama says about this. cause each of the 100 bodies to be surrounded by 100 bodhisattvas. So you have 100 Buddhas out there that they are all manifesting, and so they continue to teach on your behalf. And they have 100. They each have 100 bodhisattvas helping them. On the second,
sorry, they are not you.
What is you, Mark?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You. Since we attain this state by means of the realization that there is no inherently existent you, there is a conventionally existent you which is infused with this extraordinary compassion, determined to attain full enlightenment in order to help infinite sentient beings. So what is you? I'm not saying that I can answer.
I thought some of this sounds like it would involve it would involve being in meditative equipoise. But this is having risen.
After rising from meditative equipoise, one can, in one instant, on the second ground, these 12 qualities are 1,000. On the third, 100,000. On the fourth, 110 million. On the fifth, 1,010 million. On the sixth, 100,000 10 million. On the seventh, 100,000 10 trillion. On the eighth, a number equal to the particles of 1 billion worlds. On the ninth, a number equal to the particles of 10 million billion worlds. On the 10th, a number equal to the particles of an inexpressible number of Buddha lands. As he ascends the grounds, the Bodhisattva gains the capacity to be born as a being of greater and greater influence. As his virtues increase, he is able to outshine or suppress greater numbers of being and more powerful beings, not for the sake of exercising power, but for the sake of helping them. So this was really a response to Mary. So you're filling in for Mary over there, okay? So this is John Avedon interviewed His Holiness on His Holiness's first visit to America.
What was Mary's question?
It was all right. Do you remember specifically?
No, I don't remember a question.
But we began discussing how should one see the infinite
From the universe.
So we'll throw this one in for good measure. Since capitalism is based on the free market principle of pursuing individual self-interest and profit, doesn't a Buddhist need to repudiate capitalism?
Who's this? I don't know. Never mind. Let him be enough.
Still a long way from home, asks. So that's something to contemplate. So let me see.
Randall's the season. Things at the season.
These manifestations that appear like reflections in physical form of a higher being, do they have a sense of I?
John is asking this.
Yes.
Of his own.
There are many possibilities. For instance, a bodhisattva who is able to do emanations could emanate himself as a certain being. Then that being would have a sense of I. However, if that being in turn emanated out another form, then that one would appear to be a person, but wouldn't be. So there are many cases. Some have a sense of I and some do not. I'm just throwing this in because it's interesting to hear His Holiness the Dalai Lama actually talking about how this stuff
That's His Holiness's
might.
response.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Then John asks, the second emanation would be an actual body with an actual consciousness, but would not have a sense of I? And His Holiness responds, the secondary one could perform the function of a human being, but wouldn't be a separate person. For instance, if an enlightened being emanated 100 forms at one time, there would not be 100 persons. There would still just be the one central being. Little science fiction here. There are different levels here. So then John asks, would the central emanator be simultaneously cognizant of everything occurring to the 100 manifestations? And His Holiness answers, there are different levels here. For those of lower realization, it would be necessary for the central emanator to control each one separately. For those of higher realization, the emanations can control themselves. The factor of spontaneity and acting without exertion is involved here. So one of the qualities of a bodhisattva approaching Buddhahood is that they can act spontaneously without thought. So when he says acting without exertion is involved here, so it's that spontaneous action that is taking place.
Without conceptual motivation. The need is there and you supply it.
So yes, one of the qualities of a Buddha's actions is that a Buddha doesn't want to help. That want, that wish to, is not there. It just happens automatically. So I suppose that's the spontaneity. It is the difference in where the control is. When one can spontaneously emanate forms without exertion, then each of the emanations is under his or her own control. So John asks, is such a person simultaneously aware of its own self as well as its existence as an emanation? And His Holiness responds, yes. There are cases in which among 100 emanations, each one knows what the other ones are doing. Certainly for a Buddha or a high bodhisattva, this is true, but this is difficult to explain. Until one experiences it oneself, one might think that this was just talking about something that was senseless, something like science fiction or religious fiction. So I think that's rather extraordinary.
Very sharp of John, but it was a long time ago. It was late 70s.
79.
79,
Yes. So taking that, sorry?
John is still around and alive and well.
Understanding the sense of emanations, is that to be able to understand emptiness? Like, are they?
No, it's not a way of understanding emptiness. It's a manifestation of the.
Of understanding emptiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Directly realizing emptiness.
Yes.
Right. Not understanding it, but realizing it.
So realizing it, what does realizing it mean?
Yeah.
Water poured into water.
That's it. So it's seeing directly. It's having that which we're looking at and we, the consciousness, looking, being, there's no duality between the two. One is simply, now, what is emptiness? I mean, we use the example of, let's say, this tripod thing holding up the light, and it's a tripod, But if we look for the tripod among its parts, we're not looking for this part or that part or that part. We're looking for the tripod. We are focusing on finding the tripod from among the parts. And since none of the parts is in fact a tripod is simply the name that we give to a bunch of parts when we put them together some way. If we are looking for the tripod among its parts, if we could really, really focus on what we are looking for, we could come to the realization that there's no tripod there to be found. There are the parts on which we impute a tripod, but there's no actual tripod. If we remove each of the parts, realizing that it is not a tripod, we would be left with nothing. So that's not really, that's more of an illustration of what emptiness might be. But it gives the idea of coming to the conclusion and coming to the realization, coming to the experience of there not being an independently existent me. And doing that initially with a sort of rough mind, such as the minds that we have, and then slowly but steadily with a finer and finer and finer, more subtle state of consciousness that dissolves more deeply into this lack of findable self. And as a result of just burning away that sense of self, there are these effects, these qualities of being able to benefit others that arise out of that. And that's what that's what was just described. So that might be a tangent, but I think that it's an interesting one because that's in essence what we come here to work towards. I mean, the Tibet Center, as we explore secular ethics and as we explore a spiritual way, the ultimate spiritual goal would be the attainment of the ability to be most effective in helping others. And that ability to affect others is best illustrated by a Buddha, a fully enlightened being. And so if our intention is to be of benefit to all, pursuing the attainment of Buddhahood would be the ultimate thing that we could devote ourselves to. And that's what I hope we're doing. Okay.
What other thing can we do that's higher than that? Bring it in.
Well, so at our level, we have to sort of bend, try to control our tendency to be preoccupied with lesser things like photography, for example, and sweet food and whatever. I mean, all these things that now, these objects of attachment, of desire, are our indulging those desires and indulging in those objects is, if we analyze it, sort of strengthening our sense of self and our sense of entitlement, setting ourselves up to be disillusioned when we're not able to satisfy ourselves, etc. And it is that whole vicious circle that we have to work to undo if we truly wish to attain a state free, well, able to be most beneficial to others. But does anyone have a question or a comment or something? Sorry, I've sort of gone on to
No, that
complete
makes
that.
sense. We have to get rid of our impulses that are really foolish, which seems to rule our minds most of the time. Only when you sit back and go, what I do, what did I do? So that's very important. And it's not you just read and you understand, oh, that's it. No.
No, but every time we read and try to understand,
Yes.
it leads us.
You have to read, but you have to incorporate it. Mhm. You know what the notes are, right, Margaret? So that, but you gotta come out naturally and with feeling and different.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I know that we've talked about before, like, is it, like, what's the difference between studying it or being alone with it or putting it into action? And it's almost like it would be better to be alone with it and never do a bad thing outside of your house than to put it into, I don't know, like, I know we've discussed this before. Whether isolation would be better and you ponder it all your life, or action would be better and you do it wrong. I don't know.
We have to do them both.
Yeah.
To really, in order to arrive at the point where you have that direct realization of emptiness, you have to be living in a cave someplace, or you have to really remove yourself from the affairs of life. You don't necessarily, in the literal sense, have to go off and live in a cave, but you have to have been able to dissociate yourself from the affairs of worldly affairs, worldly desires, worldly concerns, to the point where you are able to really be focused on that. And that's very high.
Create the mental space.
Do you think that for like the people that like someone like myself that is dealing in worldly affairs or is going to the grocery store and
All of us.
you know driving my car and doing all the things, participating in society, what do you feel like is the best approach to emptiness, and is it helpful for someone that's not in a cave?
So everything that we do in life, we can do with a selfish intention, and we can work towards doing to be of benefit to others. Even, walking down the street, I have to get to the, or you smile, whatever.
Yeah.
There are constant opportunities to make what we do of some kind of service to the world around us, or else to make what we do really a determination to work towards accomplishing what I care about. So we have to work on ourselves to do that. We have to develop that feeling of concern for others, recognizing our dependence on others. And that's the work that, at our level we have to do. And, all of us, I think. And while we're doing that, we intellectually become more familiar with this concept that there is no actual self. That's something we do intellectually. That's something we read about, we think about. And then we come to recognize how that sense of self causes us to act in ways that ultimately harm us. And so... Yeah?
But isn't...
I love that question. That was a great question. Thank you.
Isn't worldly and not worldly in the mind?
Sure, this is all in the mind.
Someone could be just as worldly up in a cave somewhere.
Yes.
So we don't have to beat ourselves up for not going up in a cave. I mean, it's sort of, the workshop is here.
So I think that as we work towards this, simplifying things, diminishing our desires, whatever, is what we try to do. got to come.
Horizon, I'm showing you off.
But yes, the work is here, and there are many stories of meditators going up to or people going up to meditate in the mountains and having nothing but worldly thoughts the whole time. And you know, one of the things that we need to have in order to have a realization of emptiness is concentration, the ability for the mind to remain focused on one object for as long as we want, without any effort. And the concentration has to be so pure that as we remain focused, it actually brings us a certain vitality. Now that's as we've discussed, that is a quality or an attainment that is not considered to be virtuous in and of itself. The quality of that concentration depends on what we're concentrated on. If we then, in order, the prerequisites for being able to enter into the practice of developing that concentration are pretty tough. You have to be not very concerned with the affairs of this life. If you, I remember meeting a monk. He was a tailor monk, and he was saying that he was going to go off and develop single-pointed concentration. It said that you can develop this ability to be focused in between 6 months and a year of total devotion to this. And so he decided, he put aside his tailoring, and he was in his 50s, I suppose, and he decided to go off and work at developing single-pointed concentration. And I remember being so impressed, thinking, wow, he's right. You know, when you read about single-pointed concentration in the Lam Rim or something, when it's very appealing. You think, gosh, I have to do that. Then I saw him after 2 or 3 months. I thought, wow, what's he doing here? And I said, I thought you were off meditating on single-pointed concentration. He said, I wasn't ready. And it was a real, I think it's very important to realize that this is not something that we can push. When we're not ready, if we push ourselves, we'll go crazy. Our mind, they talk about practitioners who literally push their minds too hard and they pop. And he had the good sense to not push himself harder than he could. Preparing yourself for the stages is important, and not going faster than you actually can is important. Not being too lax is important too, but not pushing too hard is important. You have such practices in the Hindu tradition?
Yes. I think when we talk about not pushing ourselves too harder to reach there, I feel like when you start meditating, when things change inside you, things change around you. It gets you to there. It comes to you once you don't have to push yourself to go there. It'll come to you once you decide that you have to get there. If you choose it, it chooses you.
The mountain comes to Muhammad, I think.
Something like that. Amazon brings it now.
This just in.
Just from the Chicago,
Oh,
from the names at that time.
not yet, no. So, getting to the point of determining that we wish to attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings, getting to the point where we actually generate bodhicitta, that determination, is enormous. We are working towards changing our preoccupation from self to others, and I think that working towards making that part of our lives, working towards making that a natural part of our lives, is really important, is wonderful. And, presumably that's why we're all here. So, we don't have too much time left, but we are following. So, what His Holiness does in Ethics for the New Millennium is really present the way by which we can diminish our sense of self-importance and develop a feeling of responsibility towards others. So where we left off, I have 69 towards the bottom of the page. Now it could be objected that while we may all share a capacity for loving kindness, human nature is such that inevitably we tend to reserve it for those closest to us. So here we are really exploring how to stretch that. As I said before, we cannot have this loving kindness limited to those people whom we care about. That's attachment. That's the opposite of what we're trying to develop.
Can you say that once more? We cannot have love and kindness toward
Just
I see.
The universe.
Got it.
And that's like a process that we have to push ourselves. It doesn't mean that we diminish our love for those who are closest to us, but it means that we work towards extending that to those whom we have no regard for, those who cause us trouble, those whom we dislike, and like that. We're biased towards our families and friends. Our feelings of concern for those outside the circle will depend very much on individual circumstances. Those who feel threatened are not likely to have very much goodwill for those who threaten them. All this is true. It's true enough. Nor do I deny that whatever our capacity to feel concern for our fellow human beings, when our very survival is threatened, it may, but rarely prevail over the instinct for self-preservation. Still, this does not mean that the capacity is no longer there, that the potential does not remain. Even soldiers after battle will often help their enemies retrieve their dead and wounded. In all of what I have said about our basic nature, I do not mean to suggest that I believe it has no negative aspects. So His Holiness has been pointing out the positive, in what we read before, the love that a mother has for her child, the reciprocal love or affection that a child has towards this person who's caring for him, her, the child. That's what enables the child to survive. And so His Holiness has really been pushing this, I wouldn't say innately or intrinsic virtue that we possess, but saying that there are qualities that are virtuous qualities that exist naturally. Where there is consciousness, hatred, ignorance, and violence do indeed arise naturally. This is why, although our nature is basically disposed towards kindness and compassion, we are all capable of cruelty and hatred. It is why we have to struggle to better our conduct. It also explains how individuals raised in a strictly non-violent environment have turned into the most horrible butchers. In connection with this, I recall my visit some years ago to the Washington Memorial, which pays tribute to the martyrs and heroes of the Jewish Holocaust at the hands of the Nazis. What struck me most forcefully about the monument was its simultaneous cataloging of different forms of human behavior. On one side, it lists the victims of acts of unspeakable atrocity. On the other, it remembers the heroic acts of kindness on the part of Christian families and others who willingly took terrible risks in order to harbor their Jewish brothers and sisters. I felt that this was entirely appropriate and very necessary to show the two sides of human potential. But the existence of this negative potential does not give us grounds to suppose that human nature is inherently violent or even necessarily disposed towards violence. Perhaps one of the reasons for the popularity of the belief that human nature is aggressive lies in our continual exposure to bad news through the media. Yet the very cause of this is surely that good news is not news. Maybe that's a place to stop.
Except the Tibet Center.
What? Except that it's Chinese. The mark.
What does that mean? Yeah, what are you saying?
I said, good news is good news at Tibet Center.
Ink. Don't forget that. Ink. All right. So we have names?
We do. Glenn Hansard.
Yeah.
So we do have negative tendencies. We do, but we can work on them, and that's what the work is. Okay, so we will read the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels, where we are remembering the qualities of the Buddha, his doctrine, and the spiritual community engaged in practicing. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the center of Nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavat who arises in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavad teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by the Bhagavad is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely. They enter insightfully. They enter straightforwardly. They enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joint palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the little leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore their fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. So we'll read the 8 verses on training the mind. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them with purity. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds of sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When one whom I benefit with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. And now the prayer for a swift return. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifested in the form of sacred rose, Guru loves and loves to Wanghujicha. Please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast ways of aspirational prayers, glorious speech of the victor of Buddha's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in some surpass great awakening. Yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? though impossible for you till existence end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return to the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta, drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, waiting for whom you return as the glory of Losam Tempe, magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakalama, Karyama, and Srimati Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this Saturday, here in New Jersey, we will have the Tara, White Tara Sadhana celebration, which you are all welcome to. It's 1 o'clock at 502 North Ridgewood Road. Please reach here by 1 o'clock. Thank you. Yes, followed by lunch.